Jeff, thank you so much for sitting with us today. I know you drove out all the way from Madison to join us. And
Yeah.
I always say, oh, were you in town?
Fort Worth. I drove from Fort Worth.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Office is out in Addison. I drive all over though, so it's okay.
Yeah. In the construction industry, we tend
Yeah.
we tend to do that.
Absolutely.
Well, as an EA, I know time is our most valuable resource. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sitting with us.
I appreciate you taking time out of the day to do this with me.
So you've built a solid career in
Mhm.
residential construction and project management. What moment made you realize you had a voice beyond the job site, one that needed to be shared as a speaker? Actually, you know what? I want to talk about your experience in construction
Mhm.
and how that helped build you into the person that you are today. And then we'll go into the motivational speaking.
Sure. So I would use success incredibly loosely.
Okay.
I know you've talked to individuals, Juan being one of them, and where he ended up having great success with it. I have failed my way to my position that I'm in now incredibly. And so I started off doing fences probably a decade ago, about at 25. And I was real good at fences. I actually worked with a fence company for a little while. And working with them about 6 months in, I had my own fence company.
Okay.
And, I was working with them. And on the weekends, I would be working, doing my own fence jobs. And, 25, hard headed, I ended up getting in some issues with them. And they were like, look, you got to choose one or the other. And I was like, well, forget you guys, I'm out. And so then I started a fence company with a stolen truck and trailer
Oh, my
from
goodness.
that company. And so that's a story in and of itself. Eventually, I ended up getting into residential construction, working with a buddy of mine who was flipping houses.
Mhm.
And so I was working for $100 a day, working, building, flipping a house with him, trying to figure everything out, right?
Right.
Tile, drywall, framing, everything. I did that and I turned it into a business. And I didn't know how to run a business. And so I say use success really loosely because at that time, man, I was still, trying to figure myself out. And, you don't have to fill out a job application when you have, a GC or a business name.
Right.
And so it's a little bit easier to get inside someone's house and build stuff and do stuff. And so I figured out a lot of ways to do stuff and I figured out a lot of ways not to do stuff. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I was getting clean and sober that I decided to take my experience from there and just let me get a job as a project manager. And that's how I ended up with Blue Hawk.
Okay. What when you say you went ahead and became a project manager, that really resonated because that's something as an EA, we manage projects. We
Yeah.
don't have the official title, but we help our executives manage their projects. So essentially, we're project managers. What skills were you able to transfer when you talk about like starting your business or having these other businesses and then you became a project manager? What were you able to leverage?
I was able to leverage that I had a business and being able to talk to people.
Oh, yes.
And I learned a lot when I had my own business,
Mhm.
but there's a lot I had to learn in the past few years that I just didn't pick up
Right.
because I was trying to figure out how to run a business and I had no idea.
Right.
And so I was able to leverage my charisma and charm.
I mean, own it. If you've ever taken a Strength Finders, woo is a big one for salespeople. Yeah.
So, being pretty blunt, that's what I was able to leverage. And what I've poured into myself in the past 2-3 years and others have been poured into me.
Mhm.
That's what's really helped accomplish a lot of this growth.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really strong support system.
Now,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
yes. Yeah, so about 2-3 years ago, I actually, and not 2-3 years ago, I'm 3 years sober.
Okay.
And so I actually lost all my friends and everybody. And not everybody, man. I have had a few that have actually stuck around. I have a few that are still from high school. And while I was getting better and trying to figure myself out, they've helped me out. And so it wasn't everybody, but all the immediate ones I knew, they were gone. Some of the other guys that I, tried to stick out with, they were gone. And now I'm actually part of a group called 100 Men Strong.
Mm.
And one of the gentlemen that is part of the group. I'm actually wearing his swag today. But it's a group of Christian men,
Mhm.
and we keep each other accountable. We stay in the gym, being strong. It's not just about being financially right, it's about being financially, spiritually, mentally, physically right. And so we keep each other accountable now. And so I've worked really hard to build up my circle to include gentlemen like Juan
Mhm.
or, you know, other people who have been through hardships and they've come out clean on the other side and they're doing better for themselves
Right.
so they can help other people. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, right? Most of the people, it's funny, I hang around probably some of the same people that I would have when I was messed up, and,
Uh-huh.
drunk and high all the time. But now they're those kind of people, but they kind of went through the same thing I did and they came out clean on the other side and hanging out with those individuals. Um, and so that's how I've developed that group around me now. And so
Yeah.
it took some time.
I thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's very vulnerable, and I appreciate that you shared that.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, if anyone is struggling out there, not that that's what this podcast is about, but
Sure.
it gives hope that we're not held to our past and that we can overcome.
Yeah.
Which
Absolutely.
exactly. And so, tell me though, because I'm interested. I'm really interested in the project management and
Yeah.
how you have managed to find loosely success. We'll loosely use it, um, in that arena.
So finding success as a project manager, I ended up finding this company, Blue Hawk Construction. They were up and coming. I had a buddy of mine who was working for them so they actually have like an oil and gas side.
Okay.
He was working on the oil and gas side. He's like, hey, I knew this new company. They're starting. Come over here. And so at first, I was project managing some jobs. They actually pulled me in, and I actually pulled in a couple jobs from my old company into to them whenever I first got in, and we started working on those. Some of the my weaknesses were showing on some of the ends, and then I had my strong points that were showing up. And what ended up happening is I'm not just a project manager now. I do project management, I do networking, I do sales, I do social media and estimating.
Uh-huh.
And so I have a lot of hats.
Yes.
And so it was actually being able to have a career where I was still an entrepreneur
Mhm.
a little bit, and I had an opportunity to learn and grow with a company.
Yeah.
And so, call it divine intervention or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
It's this part of my life is probably where I've experienced the most success. And so that's how I was able to become a project manager with them. But
I
I don't do just project management. I kind of do a little bit of everything.
I love that, and you are so right. When you start with a small company,
Hmm.
some people, I mean, you saw the value in that immediately, right? Like, I'm gonna grow with you, I'm gonna learn all this stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's
now
exciting.
yeah, exactly. And you wear all the hats now, but now you're just such a valuable member. And I have seen you at networking events. That's actually, I think I first met you like virtually on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and then met you
It's
at
a
a
triple
networking
C.
event. Yes, with CCC of Fort Worth. Haven't made it to a Dallas one yet, but
Okay.
I don't know. They tell me the Fort Worth is a better city, but we won't get into that debate.
For sure. It's still a hometown feel.
Yeah, very much so. I
Yeah.
mean, I always thought I was a Dallas girl, but then started working in Fort Worth, and 3 months later, I got a cowboy hat and upgraded my cowboy boots.
That's
So,
great.
so I'm curious, what is there something maybe like a moment that made you realize, you know, because you mentioned your backstory and you mentioned your experience, and the reason we're sitting with you
Mhm.
today is you are now launching into motivational speaking, I guess, like coach or just
Mhm.
motivational speaker. You want to launch
Both.
that journey.
Both.
And what moment made you want to take that leap of faith?
I didn't. This is okay, so this is a story that I don't really tell often.
Okay.
I was actually at a very prominent black church. it was a Wednesday, and it was during one of the times where I would be, if you've struggled with addiction, it's a lot. It's very up and down, right? You're like you're
Mhm.
sober for a little bit, then you fall off, back and forth, back and forth. And so it was one of the times where I was like, okay. And the preacher was prophesizing, and the last thing he said, last person he decided to get to was me, and he was like, "You're going to be a preacher or an evangelist." And I was like, "You're out of your mind. You have no idea who I am." And so that's was one of the moments where it started. Not long after that, maybe a year or so, I don't really remember the time frame. I was getting some DoorDash food, and the DoorDash driver, he said, "Hey, man, I know I don't know you, and we never met in person. This is all through text."
Uh-huh.
He was like, "Hey, you're going to be an evangelist."
Oh my
You
gosh.
know what his name was? Angel.
No. Okay, you're making it
Yeah,
up. I'm just kidding. I know
yeah,
you're not. I know you're not. But
for
yeah, when
sure.
things align, oh my gosh.
And so again, this was years before I decided to get sober, and since I decided to get sober, and I never really wanted to go down this path. It was just it's by coincidence. Um, I've had probably about maybe five or more experiences now that
Mhm.
have finally followed that line,
Yeah.
where individuals who were very Christ related ended up having a message for me, and so coincidence is kind of out the window at this point.
Sometimes
You
I
know what I
joke.
mean?
Yeah, I joke. I was like, "God, you don't have to be that heavy-handed, okay?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I think he did. I'm a very hard-headed person, and so when I ended up getting sober, I ended up hiking with a friend of mine, and we would always talk, and I wanted to start working with kids, and so she's like, "Well, one of the things, if you want to work with kids, is you should get into Toastmasters." So I got into Toastmasters,
Okay.
and gradually from there, it started blossoming into whatever it is now,
Right.
right? I take, it's not me, it's wherever God's leading me,
Right.
right? I saw your podcast, with Juan, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And then, you just so happened to pray before this. And so I follow whatever signs I feel like I'm being led to.
Right.
And so it wasn't just a moment, it was a continual, this is what you're supposed to do. And it wasn't that I didn't it wasn't I had no idea who I was.
Mm.
And so he did, and for whatever reason, when I speak, people listen.
Well, it's that charisma and charm you mentioned, but that's okay.
Yeah. God given, and s- and that's what I've really started pushing towards,
Yeah.
you know.
N
Um and so I follow whatever signs I'm looking for.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that is a very cool story, and I thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Um, it's interesting that you mentioned Toastmasters because back in May, I was looking to go to one of the meetings and it didn't align. I had class that night. It was, it's a Monday. And so I wasn't able to go, but it's still on my radar. I
Yeah.
do want to go to Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Can you speak to how that helped you improve your skills? It's public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The joke at my club is my first speech was so bad. Everyone's like, "Yeah, we really couldn't understand you, but good job." Right? There's an older guy named Jim, and he's like, "Man," he goes, "I remember whenever you first did that first speech, I was like, oh, this guy's never gonna get out of here."
Oh no.
It was horrible.
Oh
And
no.
now, I mean, I did a speech on Tuesday. I
Mhm.
won Best Speaker award.
What? Congrats.
About every time that I do a speech now, I win Best Speaker.
I
And, I mean, I put in the time and I put in the effort. I'm actually on my way to get my DTM,
What is that?
Distinguished Toastmasters.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
basically like the highest level of Toastmaster you can get.
Okay.
And so I'm on my way to that. And so that's kind of been my journey through there.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely, it helps out a lot. Yeah,
So yes.
if you're trying to speak, if you're trying to talk to anybody, if you're trying to network, if you're trying to date, if you're trying to get a job interview,
Uh-huh.
everything is done face to face. Everything's done talking to somebody. It is one of the most underutilized skills, and it is probably been one of the not probably. It has been one of the key things that has helped me grow so dramatically in the past 3 years.
It's you're not the first person to mention that, like, when you're doing sales, for example,
Mhm.
just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
The cold email, it's better if you call, right? If you can get through one, right? But pick up the phone, make those calls. And I still was it the second podcast? Yes, the second episode, not second podcast, second episode where I talked about, my sales coach wanted me to make 10 calls, just 10 calls, and I still haven't done it. And and
Cold calls are rough.
they're so rough. And but you're right. That is a skill that you can take. And I don't know, I've read that it's one that we are losing. So going to
Mhm.
something like Toastmasters can help, okay, fine. I'm gonna put it on my month to-do list, not my daily, but my month to-do list to look into Toastmasters again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Appreciate that tip.
And then on Tuesday, if you ever wanna come virtually, I can invite you a virtual you can do Zoom
That
and
works.
come in.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. um, so you're at again the beginning of your motivational speaking career. It's
Mhm.
something you feel you've been led to, and you've had the signs, right?
Sure.
And so it was what, a week or two ago. It's really recent that you put out on LinkedIn, I am doing this thing.
Yeah.
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 Was that scary?
Um, no. No. You know, I think scary isn't being the person that you wanna be
Okay.
or driving towards your potential.
Mm.
I think that's scary. Not being who you could be, I think is scary. But, putting that stuff out there, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the stuff that I've put out there so far.
Right.
And I have some good mentors in my life who I look to for advice who just say, go, right? Quit and just go. And, we don't always have the time to keep on pushing back. And so I wouldn't say it's scary. Um, I mean, love it, hate it. You know, People have opinions, and if it's something that you've been feel like led to do,
Mhm.
go.
So you feel it, you're going, you have support, you've gotten some great initial feedback.
Hmm.
What are you doing right now to build up your um like that? What are you doing right now? Steps taken to make sure that I don't want to use successful, but that you're building up on that, right? Like
Hmm.
what to you
Yeah,
would prove that growth?
like what am I doing to build up my brand? Or
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
well, so I like like we were talking before this whole thing started. I do about 8 hours on the weekend where I'm making batch content,
Right.
and then I'm putting it out there and I'm scheduling it, right? And it's all based around my philosophy of life.
Mhm.
And the speech that I am actually giving, my what ended up being what's going to be now my keynote speech,
Okay.
is the 5 keys to failure. And that was actually a speech that I used for the speech contest, and it's just one that I've been refining. And so I'm doing my headshot, I'm doing my bio. I'm actually in the D25 Speakers Bureau,
Okay.
which means so District 25 Toastmasters, they have a speakers bureau. You have to audition for it, and I'm in it. But I haven't really kept up with my bio or my headshot. And so I was talking to one of my mentors, who's Vernon Wright, and he's a public speaker.
Okay.
And he was like, "Look, man, you need to get your headshot, you need to get your bio, and you need to have a keynote speech. That way, if someone gets in touch with you, you have all these things ready to go. You
Yeah.
need to have those things ready to go." And so that's what I'm doing on the back end. On the front end, I'm loading my brand. who I am, and that's a lot of the stuff that I put out. Even on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a new one. I use a lot of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and I put out at least two things a day on that, 2 to 3 things on that one, and then I've been doing this series over on Instagram
Mhm.
or LinkedIn, which is the 5 keys to failure. So I've taken my keynote speech, broken it up into bite-sized portions, so I can kind of get something that's like less than a minute and shoot it out there and get people interested. And so that's what I'm doing to build my brand and my awareness to kind of what's going on. Is I'm just mass producing content.
That I'm, like, sitting here and getting goosebumps because I got so excited just hearing you share that information. I mean, that excites my heart because, again, as an EA, I've been able to be at tables and to listen to people who, if I was in any other position, I would not be able to.
Yeah.
And what I've learned along the way has been invaluable.
Hmm.
And so thank you for sharing that, like those things that sometimes just kind of slip through, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to use this picture that my friend took. The lighting actually was pretty good. I'm going to use that as my headshot.
Yeah.
But that's your first impression when someone looks at your page, when someone is looking you up on the internet,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's so important. Bios,
It matters.
yes,
Yeah.
more than people think.
And so funny. A little side note. I was actually at a networking event the other day. I was talking to an individual there. Me and her connected because she actually knew people from one of my past lives. And she's like, "So what's on your social media? You just act there wilding out?" I was like, "No, actually, I do a lot of motivational stuff, workout and stuff like that." And people check that out and they want to see what you're posting. They want to see what you're talking about. They want to see what kind of stuff you have out there. Because if they refer you and you're talking about some wild stuff online, it reflects and it reflects on them for referring you. And that was another moment where it clicked on how important it is to build a brand as a person.
Mm, yes. You know, I I feel I don't want to get canceled, but I am, I'm heavily tattooed, and that is a result of choices that I made, in my 20s. Now I still will get a tattoo, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I am more aware of, when you get what you pay for, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yes.
but
Uh,
also recognizing that I am in an industry where um I'm going to be judged.
mhm,
A lot of people assume I'm a chef, and I guess a lot of chefs are tattooed. They don't when they realize I work in an office. A lot of times, especially the older generation, I'll
mhm,
just say it, is
sure.
surprised, and I tell them, "Yeah, I get it, but I'm in Texas. It's hot, but in the summer, sometimes you'll find me wearing a sweater in the office, depending on who I'm talking to that day. I don't mind because I realize that that first impression matters.
Yeah,
Now, um, sometimes I do have to earn that trust. And then, once they see the tattoos, they're like, oh, I didn't realize, but at that point they've seen me, and it comes with the territory. And I say that to say, um, I just kind of want to reemphasize, or, my heart lies in we're not prisoners to our past, and you can
absolutely.
overcome, but sometimes that's going to take a little pivoting, maybe not. Do I want to wear a sweater during summer in Texas? No. But, I do enjoy what I do, and I feel I'm good at it. So I'm going to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, absolutely. And your heart and authenticity sticks out a lot more than what's on surface. And I think that that stands out a lot more than anything else. Because I've I've been to certain rooms myself, looking how I look with the haircut that I have. When you're in, I mean, I still wear a suit and everything, but you're still in there with individuals who, they probably went to a high end college, right?
Hmm.
They went to somewhere else. You know what I mean? And some of them do have, you know, um, a stiff upper lip.
Hmm.
To put it nicely.
Hmm.
And there's going to be those people, and just don't bother with them. I don't. I try not to bother with them.
Right.
Because your authenticity is what makes you who you are, and I think that speaks a lot louder than what you have on the outside.
Agreed. 100%. Um, so again, I just feel like, God, I should have done Toastmasters several months ago. It seems that there's so many things I could have learned on my own entrepreneurial journey to help me because I am trying to build my brand. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there are listeners out here that want to build their brand. And so you've given us some great takeaways.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask, have you booked your first motivational speech or not yet?
So not yet, but I have done 2 educational sessions
Okay.
with Toastmasters.
Okay.
So an educational session is it's like a 45-minute to 1 hour session on something, right? So my first one was on vulnerability, right? And so yeah, I dug real deep into vulnerability when I first started speaking and talking, and Toastmasters was a healing place. I mean, I was going to therapy, but Toastmasters was another place to heal.
Yeah.
And so the first one was on vulnerability, and I studied some Brene Brown on
Okay.
that one, who's great on that topic. And then my second one was over a kid's book that I did. That basically, who you choose to be friends with, defines who you are.
Oh, I can't think of who said it, but Steve, his last name's Rohn, and he talks about you're the result of the 5 people
Jim
that,
Rohn.
yes,
Oh
you're the
yeah,
result.
he's the OG of motivational speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He talks about you are the result of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
yeah, absolutely. It
Um,
matters.
yes, more than
Yeah.
again. Um, I'm again, we're right at the beginning of your journey, and I can just the passion and excitement. I'm motivated by it, and I'm
This is
thinking like I want
awesome.
to go work on my brand after this. Um, what do you have a business plan right now? Are you getting that in place?
No, I'm not really good with business plans. I just go,
Okay. Okay, yeah.
and that's kind of what I do. And so I figure it out as I go.
Right.
And I'm okay with failing uh, because a lot of my healing came through failing and being a failure. And so that's kind of what I'm going towards right now. Now I have a name for it. It's Fuel Answer. And it's based off of, I want to say it's Matthew, but there was a parable where everyone is invited to a king's wedding,
Uh-huh.
and no one that he invited showed up. And so he invited everyone from the streets to come in, and he gave them the garments to wear.
Mm,
And then he kicked out somebody because they didn't wear the garment that he had for him.
right.
And the the purpose of that parable is that everyone's called, but few will respond with excellence. And so it's the fuel answer is is the that's the name, that's the theme.
Right.
Is that everyone has a calling, everyone has something great that they can do and that they're supposed to do, and the ability to touch others, but not everyone's going to answer. And so my I guess purpose is to reach out to those so they can answer their own calling.
You took me back to Sunday school. I'd forgotten about that parable. um, but that is, I feel such a great way to just kind of explain what's in your heart. And so as you're moving forward and you're batching your content and you're putting yourself out there, can you share some of the tools that you found to be effective as you are preparing your videos and the I mean, do you the things like, maybe
Sure.
people don't realize, like, teleprompters. I don't use one, but I
Mhm.
have friends that do, and I'm just curious what you have found to help you along your journey.
Yeah, go out there and look like a fool. Right? It's actually that's the
100%.
first key of failure on my keynote speech is it's okay to look like a fool. And I think that stops a lot of people because they don't want to look foolish.
Mm.
Now, when I first started doing these videos, I was in the corner of the gym filming a video, had no idea what I was doing, and I was like, I look like such a dweeb. I'm filming myself. I look like one of those goofy people doing goofy TikToks. And now I'm literally one of those people who, do batch content for TikTok and,
Uh-huh.
and Instagram. And so I became that person, but I have a lot of videos that God, they're horrible. And so failure is a great teacher.
Mhm.
quantity, not quality, because you figure out what quality is by going through it.
Right. I think Malcolm Gladwell is the one talking about like you need 1,000 hours of
Yeah.
doing something to get good at it.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and so go out there and look goofy, make some goofy videos. All right. Put yourself out there, kind of figure out what people respond to. I use ChatGPT to kind of help me get some of the stuff that I form on my content.
Uh-huh.
I use CapCut as far as a program to use. You can use your phone. I mean, I use my phone to record. I mean, I got buddies who use $2,000 cameras, which I can't compete as far as like quality and everything else. And my first microphone was a $20 microphone off of Amazon. I have one that's a little bit more expensive now, and it's a lot better at blocking
Uh-huh.
sound out. But just just get started. But CapCut, your phone, I mean, you can do a ton of stuff on there and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't and what looks good. And then you can kind of figure out how to make a transition look cool. And it's just, it's a process.
That's exactly where my mind went when you were talking about like filming and everything. One of the things I learned I didn't realize was so important was that transition. And it's
Hmm.
not just because it makes the video look good, but psychologically, like
Hmm.
our brains are wired a certain way. And we're
Yeah.
gonna be like, that was harsh. Like that's gonna completely take us out of the video.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate enough to take a class in Adobe Premiere, and the
Nice.
professor had experience working with a news station, and he talked about transitions, and he really got on one of my videos. He's like, "That transition was terrible." It's like, okay, I will never do that again,
Right.
right? And so I recently did one where Ruho boots, which they again not it's not a paid ad, but they have some pretty great boots. Um, they let me film some content,
Very
and that
cool.
just I just asked, I was like, "Can
Yeah.
I do this?" And they say a lot of times people are willing to help you,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
don't be afraid to take what I say, collect your no. My executive puts a
That's a
positive
great.
positive right? It's like just
Yeah.
it helps me
That's great advice.
frame the whole like, they're gonna say no, but they may say yes. My executive is
Yeah.
very is a very positive, sunshiny person, and she's like,
That's good.
"I don't want to take that no. I'm gonna just say I'm collecting my yes." I was like,
Yeah.
yes, whatever works. Just don't be afraid to ask for the thing, right?
Absolutely.
And it was there were a lot of harsh when I put it together in CapCut. There were a lot of harsh transitions,
Hmm.
but it gives you tools to help transition. So again, you're not there at the end with the end result or the end product being like, well, I got the experience, I learned, but it helps ease and smooth it and make it look more professional.
Hmm.
And it's things as you grow that become accessible. And you're right. Thank you. Sometimes I feel we can get caught up in, I need that DSLR camera to
Yeah.
make it look amazing, but
Yeah.
start with your phone.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
start.
Just start.
Yeah.
Right. If you can work with the basics, you can work your way up to the expensive stuff, and then it makes sense.
I feel it's maybe been your mantra, right? In life, just start, just go.
Just go.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go. Just go do something. Get out there and just move. It gets rid of anxiety. It gets rid of uncertainty. It gets rid of the depression.
Mm,
Just move, right? I mean, because we're our own worst enemy when it comes to overthinking and trying to get that perfect shot and that perfect thing. And some of the stuff I put out, I put one out about not drinking anymore on by going to these networking events, and it ended up blowing up more than some of my other stuff, man. And it was just you know top of the head, just wanted to go put something out, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so some of the stuff that you think's like the corniest, maybe not going to pick up at all, man, it ends up picking up. And so
That's
that's kind of how that works.
exactly. I read because I starting to delve into marketing and
Hmm.
learning, and if someone tells you I can make you go viral, don't believe them. You don't
No.
know it's going to go viral.
Right.
Um, so you are one of my most watched videos. It's just me and my colleague at my computer, and it's a voiceover of like, I'm saying I'm 58 years old or something, and she's over here, dang, and like it's just a voiceover, and it's
Yeah.
my most watched reel. Like
Yeah.
we're just cutting up, and
Yeah.
it was fun. But you're right, just put the stuff out there,
Yeah.
and you touched on bodybuilding, and you spoke to fitness and filming in the gym.
Hmm.
You are a bodybuilder.
Amateur. Yeah. By accident has most everything else kind of happened. Yeah.
Yeah, you just again, you just went but that feel speaks to also who you are as a person because
Mhm.
that's hard. I went through a season where I did the chicken and broccoli and rice religiously and now I'm a Taurus. We love our routine. So, I mean, I ate that for a few months. And
Yeah.
when I tell you I looked the healthiest,
Mhm.
I'm a runner. And so I was performing very well.
Yeah.
It's hard though to maintain.
Yeah, it is.
And so, but again, I feel some of that mindset and some of that work translates over to the business world.
It does. And when you're able to stretch yourself out, you get a new level of respect for yourself because you understand what level of discipline you can really stick to.
Mm.
And it gives you new tools to work with in your toolbox. And you only get those by stretching yourself out with goals that are outside of your comfort zone. And so, yeah. So when I did this, I mean, I had a buddy who was like, "Hey, man, you should do a bodybuilding show." I was like, I don't know. And then he's like, "You only live once." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I will." And then I start working out over at this other gym, and my buddy's like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna do this show in, I don't know, a few months. You should do it with me." I was like, "Okay." I mean, that's really all it was.
It's
You know
like,
what I
don't threaten
mean?
me with a good time.
So I did an 8-week cut, and I cut down from 238 to 209 or 207 in 8 weeks, which was intense,
Yes.
while keeping up doing the job, keeping up selling to clients, keeping up doing estimates, and being in the gym 6 days a week, an hour of cardio, eating the craziest diet that I've ever had. But after I was done with it, and I was posting the whole journey.
Right.
I actually had a lot of people reach out to me and they were like, dude, because of that, I'm getting into fitness. I'm doing a little bit more stuff on my healthy stuff. And I was like, I had no idea anyone was watching. I was just going. And again, that not only did it teach me that not everybody, most people who are watching you are not responding to the content you're putting out.
Hmm.
I would say it's kind of like an iceberg, like the people that were responding are at the very top, and then everyone who's just kind of watching is below.
Hmm.
And it taught me the level of discipline I could have if I really wanted to try.
I am such a big proponent of sharing your journey. And I refer to it as sharing your light. And
Yeah.
again, I joked about Sunday school, but I was raised in Assemblies of God, did Sunday school, did church on Sundays twice a day and on Wednesdays. Um, that song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Yeah.
And that's what
Talk about taking me way back.
yeah. And so when I tell people like shine your light, like
Mhm.
you don't know who needs it. And sometimes you need it for yourself. Like you need that reminder like, oh, I am a valuable and excuse me, I am a valuable badass. And I took that from my execs. If you listen to the
Yeah.
previous episode, you'll know that that's Sam's mantra. But you're right. You don't know who's watching. You
Mhm.
don't know who you're inspiring. And just by being you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my mentors said, "You don't know who you're giving hope to," and when people get that, and they get that little bit of hope, it changes the direction of what they're dealing with in their own life.
Mm.
So sometimes it's just go, 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 and then you finally have to take a step up and kind of breathe, and you're like, oh, and he was right, and he's right, and so that's um, just kind of emphasizing what you were saying. You really don't know who's paying attention.
Yes. No. I was gonna say I'm editing this out, trying to get my train of thought back. It's gone. Okay. It's all right. Um, So when we talked about your bodybuilding journey, I'm curious. One, you mentioned you ate some crazy things, and I want to know what's the craziest thing you ate on this bodybuilding journey?
When I say crazy, I ate a ton of protein,
Uh huh.
mostly whitefish.
Oh no, I'm out. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Swai. I ate a ton of swai. I didn't do tilapia. I didn't do whitening because it was I don't know. They have bones in it, so I was like, well, I don't want to choke on a fish bone, and so I did swai. So I did a ton of swai. when I say it was crazy, it was just he took out all the fat. So
Yeah.
at first I was eating like maybe 20 grams of fat, and then he took out all the fat, and then he started taking out all the carbs. And so I had no fuel for my body, and I was basically zombie mode. So I was pounding back 2 energy drinks a day, and then he's like, "All right, now no more energy drinks, just black coffee." And I'm like, "Oh, you're killing me." He's like, "No pre-workout, you know, you just got to do it like that." And so I did. And so that when I say it was crazy, it just no fat all the
Yeah.
way. It transferred to no carbs,
Yeah.
and then it transferred to no artificial sugars or sweeteners or anything. And then when the week that you're getting ready for it, so like the Sunday before, I'm drinking 2.5 gallons of water. The next day, I'm drinking 2.5 gallons of water.
Yeah.
So within like a 4 or 5 day time frame, I've drank in like 9 gallons of water. I'm drinking, I'm eating diuretics, so I'm,
Uh-huh.
whizzing everything out,
Yeah.
and it was just you just see your body transform.
Mm.
And it was crazy to see that transformation because I was like, "Oh, I eat clean, I eat healthy," and then you're like, "Oh, there's more of a science to this."
Yeah.
It's I track my calories, and then it's like I track my macros, and it's like, the people who were doing the bodybuilding, there's a science to it, and
Yeah.
get a glimpse of that, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. There's not that I had any doubt you're going to succeed on your motivational speaking journey. Again, we're going to follow up with you in 6 months just to learn
Yeah,
everything that you've learned along the way.
absolutely.
But just by everything you've went through and you explain, I'm like, oh, his mindset is there. Like oh my gosh.
Uh,
If again, I say if they could bottle what you're on and what that is, I mean, Amazon would never be able to keep it in stock. Um,
no, no, it'd
uh,
make the journey a little bit easier too.
right.
Yeah, yeah, we just
Um,
sell some of that.
you mentioned, you know, just circle back about, you know, you don't know who needs what you need,
Mhm.
right? Or what you're sharing. And on
Yeah.
my drive over here, now it's been a week, but on my drive over here, my watch vibrates and I look down and it read, "Good things are coming your way, Danielle." And I was like, what? What? And it was from a random 888 number, right? And I, in that moment, because sometimes you're on a long drive, it's a little bit of a drive over here to the studio. It's a wonderful studio though, and totally worth it. Um, but it was what I needed, right?
Yeah.
And later on, when I see it's like I had signed up for this um fitness company's clothing, and I guess I told them they could text me because I hadn't received the text until then, and
Yeah,
it just felt so timely.
that's great.
And I mean, it's from this company that is their focus is suicide awareness. And
Okay.
so sharing that message, like you don't know who needs it, right? They didn't they
Right.
it aligns with their mission, and I needed it in that moment. And
That's good.
so again, you
That's
don't
good.
know. Share the thing.
You
Whatever. You
should.
just share your light. And you have such a wonderful light, and I appreciate you sitting with
Thank you.
us. Before we let you go, we're going to get all your socials so we can follow you, and I will
Okay,
put that
cool.
in the show notes. But in 6 months, when we revisit with you again, what are you imagining, or what have you imagined has happened? Where are you at in 6 months?
I've done my keynote in 6 months. 6 months will be what?
That's
June,
it, November,
July, August, September, October, November, December.
December. I can't count.
You're good. Yeah. Um, I will have done my keynote. I'll done a second bodybuilding show. I'll have um, I'll have started a nonprofit. I'll I'll have the business. I think it's probably going to be a holding company
Okay.
for the all are called or for a fuel answer. Because there's a few ways I want to take that. The nonprofit actually has to do with me getting my DTM,
Okay.
and I just want to see if I can do it. Like I said, I like working with young men, and so I think that's probably a pretty good overview of the things that I'll have done. There's some stuff in business that we'll have taken care of. I think we'll be doing a few restaurants at that time,
Oh,
and we'll be working on getting in with some bigger clients.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so excited to follow up with you. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned the nonprofit.
Hmm.
And so I'm not going to get political, but if anyone out there is wanting to start a nonprofit, do the paperwork, get it in. It's taking a little bit longer.
Sure.
There were some changes in governmental departments. And so while in the state of Texas, I launched my nonprofit in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Um, but in the state of Texas, it was really quick to get it incorporated. I'm still waiting on my 501(c)(3) approval from the IRS. And their website basically says if you submit it before there's a date specific March, I can't think of the date. It's along this line. If you submit it after, basically don't write us. Like it's going to take some time. So
Okay.
get your paperwork in and get that going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, at the last CCC event, there was a gentleman there who does whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Consultations for people who are looking to set up nonprofits.
Really?
And so I actually ended up getting his card, and I reached out to him,
Okay.
and so I'll be sitting down with him, and that way I can, you know, go, and make sure someone can lead you in the right direction.
Yes. Yes. No, we need those again, we need those mentors. I reached out to someone who has a nonprofit and was like,
Smart.
I was like, I want to do the
Yeah.
thing, but I need a checklist. And so
Yeah.
they provided that guidance. So you're right. If
Very cool.
um big believer. I love Tony Robbins. I know some people don't, but I do love motivational speakers. That's why again, I'm just so excited to sit with you. Because that also just I love motivational speakers.
Yeah.
And Tony Robbins says the quickest way to success is to go find someone who's done the thing, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, I was like, I'm gonna start a nonprofit. I need to talk to someone who's done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it just goes back to just talking to people.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Go get your no.
Fine. Yes. Go get your know. Go look up Toastmasters. There's one near you. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. There's a ton of them out there. That's the one thing I'd recommend to everybody. Check out, go do, go to Toastmasters. If you want to sit down, like I said, man, if you're trying to date, it's a lot easier to talk to somebody when you know how to talk.
Right.
If you're trying to do podcasts,
Uh-huh.
if you're trying to interview, if you're trying to every job, every even as an engineer, you're going to have to put on PowerPoint presentations.
Hmm.
The more that you want to the more that you want to get like a higher position in your company, you're going to have to learn how to talk to people. We have an engineer who's getting his master's degree in city planning,
Okay.
and he's straight engineer. If you ever talk to an engineer, you understand the way they talk to people is very black and white.
I married one.
Yeah. So you understand how an engineer talks to people. And so he's an engineer. However, he's really come out of his shell. He's really learned how to talk to people, and he's advancing in his career, even though, he was very goofy and shy when he first started. And to see him grow up out of that shell, it's been amazing. So even engineers who don't want to talk to people, if you want to move up in your company, you're going to have to talk to people.
Mm,
And that's across the board. And I think it's becoming a long lost skill. And I think that's probably going to be one of the best things to develop.
going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give my husband some kudos here. I I'm an introvert, but I love going to networking events.
Yeah.
And that only means that I just need a little time to recharge after I come home.
Absolutely.
But he told me, he goes, I see you go to these networking events. And at first he's like, I get invited to them all the time. And he gets invited to some pretty cool things because he's high up in his company. And I mean, I'm talking like he's been invited to like Mavericks games and stuff.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not
pretty
there
cool.
yet. Yeah, I'm not there yet.
We're working on it.
But he said, that he's like, you inspired me to go out, he let his not fear of public speaking because obviously if he's moved up, he can give a presentation. But that I mean, when you go to a networking event, you're gonna be around so many
Hmm.
people, you're not gonna know the vibe, you're not gonna
Right.
know you're trusting you're gonna be able to navigate that. And now I've seen he goes to now several a month and
Very
I'm just so
cool.
proud of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and if the community out there is scared to go to a networking event, and maybe you can add to this piece of advice, but go with someone who's good at networking.
Yeah. Just it's weird going up to people and talking to them when no one's talking or when they're talking to each other and you're just like, "Hey." And they're like, "Yeah, we were having a conversation, but like, how's it going?"
I
And
know.
and it's, just embrace the moment. Embrace the moment for what it is. You're gonna have awkward, goofy moments no matter where you're at. And so just go out there, interrupt some people while they're talking, talk to somebody. It's gonna be weird and goofy at first.
And sometimes I find, and maybe because this works for me, and you'll find what works for you,
Mhm.
but if I'm just vulnerable and tell them, you're the first person that I'm talking to at this event. So I'm still warming up. So I appreciate that you are helping me go through this. It lets like the guard down because again, we are all
Yeah.
in the same position, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most people are nervous to go up in there and talk. You'd
Yeah.
be surprised. A lot of people have, real good poker faces. I would have never guessed.
Oh, thanks. Jeff, we are going to meet with you again in December.
Yeah.
And yes, so one, that's blessing for me because that means I made it until December. But also that means that you are taking off in your motivational speaking journey. And I'm so excited to sit with you again. One, just the passion that you're bringing. Again, I can't wait to go home. And I feel this is what I needed to end the week.
Yeah.
I'm motivated to know. We were talking. I have a paper that I just need to see it through to the finish line. And so, like, yes, this is my dream to get my master's.
That's
And
awesome.
again, when you talk about start and stopping, this is my fourth attempt. And
It's alright.
you know what? But it's been the longest. I
It's
will,
good.
once this semester's over, it'll be a year that I'm in the program. And it's a result of the people that I've surrounded myself with.
That's fantastic.
So,
I love it.
so I'm excited to just find where you're going to be at.
Yeah, me too. That makes
You're
2 of us.
you're like, we'll see.
Uh,
Jeff, thank you.
yeah, thank you. You've been an amazing host.